All right, guys. Today I'm going to give airtime to a story that should be headlining our mainstream media news tonight, but it's not. In fact, I've had a look and I can only find it in two places. When I first heard this story on a local community radio station in Berwick, I was shocked to my core to hear the details, the graphic details. And I'm going to share it with you here and I'm going to play it for you. You're not going to hear it from me. You're going to hear it from the people themselves. But what's shocking in this is that this gang activity, this African gang activity in Victoria, in my state, has become so normal that the mainstream media are already not running these stories. A couple of years ago, when all this gang activity started to happen, you heard about the carjackings, the home invasions, the jewellery heists, the street bashings, the murders it got to on a daily basis. But today, the mainstream media, when you have a story like this, aren't even running it. So it's up to you guys at home. Because TR.News, that's what we're doing. We are reporting the unreported news. But we need your help. So please, if you're watching this video on YouTube, follow the link in the description. Or if you're watching this on TR.News, please copy and paste the URL everywhere. We cannot normalize this behavior. If we want our government to change the immigration policy to ensure that this is not the future of our country, if we want them to do something about these criminal gangs that we've imported here, make sure to share the article. And if you're from overseas, please share it. Let the world know. Australia Melbourne is not that most livable city that it used to once be. So we need all your help. For now, I'm going to play for you now, and we'll talk through it, what I first heard on a local community radio station. Then we'll listen to one of the parents who called in to 3AW in Victoria.
I'm hurting a little bit and my community is hurting a little bit, and I've not really ever considered myself like a community spokesperson, leader, in any way, shape or form. But I woke up on Saturday morning and, like most people, checked in on my buddies on Facebook, and there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of pain going on because, there was an incident in Berwick on Friday night, and obviously that's very close to home. And it involved a gang attack on a teenager's birthday party that was nothing to do with the gang. And I just want to ask a question of a community, from one community to another, and actually as a mother to other mothers, I would like to ask the mothers of Sudanese descent in the area of Narrawarren, Berwick, Pakenham, where your teenagers were on Friday night. I know where my teenagers were at 11:30 on Friday night. And I want to ask you what you were doing. Were you in bed? I know it was Good Friday in the Greek community. Were you at church? Think about where you were at 11:30 p.m. on Friday night and ask yourself, where were your teenagers, your older kids, and what were they doing? Because as far as I can see in my community, we have now reached critical mass when it comes to these apparently non-existent Sudanese gangs. So,
Brilliant question. It was well put, and it's a question that we need to ask more often, because for anyone that's a parent out there, when you have teenagers, you should know where your kids are. And cultural differences is not an excuse. And if you've come to Australia and you know your kids are hanging around in gangs, if Australia's opened their arms to you and welcomed you into their country, which we have, and you know your children are out hanging in a gang, terrorising local Melburnians, the exact people who welcomed you in with open arms, you should be at the forefront of this fight.
So, a good friend of mine on Friday night was faced with something that none of us here in Australia ever think or believe that we'll have to face. And all she was doing was collecting her 15-year-old son from a 16-year-old Sweet 16 girl's birthday party in Berwick. And it was held at the hall at the Cheesecake Factory on Homestead Road. And this is a hall that's hired by lots of people.
Fun fact, I was there at that same hall earlier in the day. Literally.
They organised
functions.
Yeah, they organised security. So there were 3 security guys there probably to make sure the young boys didn't have their first beer. But, you know, it's adorable. It's the kids going out dancing and
innocently having a nice night.
hoping to fall in love for the first time, maybe, you know, and just being Aussie kids.
Kiss.
And unfortunately, the other teenagers that turned up weren't there to do that and have fun at all. So at 11:30 on Friday night, this friend of mine who is known to me for 25 years, so and you know, hers is not the only story to come from this night. She pulled up outside this venue to collect her child and just had a really strange feeling of being watched, which is a really eerie feeling because she hadn't felt that before. And she realised there were lots of smiling faces in the bushes around the venue, which really terrified her. So the parents were all lining up in the cars, waiting for their teenagers to come out. And a couple of them, maybe they'd been texting their parents and they'd said, we're outside, left the party early. So a couple of them left before sort of the mass of teenagers popped out. And the first girl that came out, suddenly all these faces that were in the bushes rushed her and they beat her. And they beat her to the ground. They were swinging nunchakas around. And they were beating her up, apparently, to take her mobile phone. And as these Sudanese teenagers came from the bushes, they looked to be, the mums at the time said they looked to be about 50 plus, right? Which is a lot. That's a scary amount.
It's a lot of people there. I understand you've talked to the police. What are the police doing about this?
The police are all over it. It is an active investigation. So what we do know is the mother of that girl then arrived, right, Pete?
Yep.
So I just want to finish because she did arrive and she did, I think, what I would do. She lost it, right? Your child's on the ground, a girl being beaten by boys, right, big boys. She got out the car, left the car running, left the door open, ran screaming at them to leave her child alone.
Yep.
The adults inside the venue did the smart thing. They went on lockdown. They locked the doors. They got the kids down to shelter in place. Really terrifying. Unfortunately, the sad aspect of this is that the 3 security guards, and I want to know who they are, right? I want to know who they are. They legged it. They left all the kids to fend for themselves and they just disappeared, which I think is absolutely disgusting. Then the most heartbreaking part of this story for me is my friend sitting in her car, terrified to...
So just picture it for a second before we continue on with the story. Picture that. You're a mum. You see your daughter who's just been beaten by what they're claiming to be 50 African youth, 50 youth for a mobile phone. You see when you get there, security legs it, runs. Now, I get she's attacking, she wants to know who the security are because she wants to... have a go at them. You know what? I know a lot of guys who work in the security industry. It's a problem. 50 against 3. The odds are not good. You're essentially potentially giving up your life. Now, to protect children may be worth it, but that's everybody in the moment. It's very hard to sit here at home and judge from behind a computer from this comfort of your own home. I don't blame the security guards. And when we hear later on in the story, you'll hear that the police say that there were many more than 50. So if you're standing on that door as a security guard and you're outnumbered, you know, I think they're saying they were outnumbered 50 to 1 or 60 to 1. I think I can understand where even security would leg it. Don't blame them. Good on the people there for locking the door. But think of that one as a 14-year-old child. You've walked out of a party and you're beaten, bashed and robbed, and your mum comes out, and as a parent coming to that. Let's continue listening to what
Get out.
tells the story.
Got a text from her son who said, Mom, I'm scared. The pseudos are all around this place. Don't come in, stay away, please stay safe.
We'll play that now because that mum actually is the one who called 3AW and she told the story herself. I'll just play it here now so we can listen to it from her perspective.
So my son went to an innocent party. It was a little dress-up party.
This is the same woman she's referring to, I believe.
Girls' party. He texted me at 11:30 and said, Mum, can you come and pick me up now and bring my mate home? Not a problem. Then I got a text at 11:45 saying, Mum, please stay away. The Sudos are here. Which
What?
is,
Please,
Sudanese gang.
please stay away. What? He thought it was dangerous for you to go.
He was scared for me to go and pick him up, yes.
So what did you do? As any parent would, you went, I suppose.
I went, but I was scared, Neil. My legs were shaking. I pulled into the car park, and all of the parents were sat in their cars with their doors locked. One parent put her window down a little bit to me and just said, "Lock yourself in," and she was crying. Her daughter had been apparently attacked inside, so then she actually got out of her car like any mother would and ran through them.
That was the other parent. So this is an eyewitness that was there. This is her son's in there. She's witnessed the other mother run to her daughter. Just yet, imagine that. Imagine that as a parent. How would you feel? Just sitting there in that car park, witnessing all the other parents like that with their windows locked, witnessing a mother have to unlock and run into the danger zone because she knows her daughter's been attacked. This is the reality. This is the reality that the media is not reporting. Let's keep listening. We'll keep listening to the mother's testimony.
Okay, did you see the people he was talking about? Did you see the gang?
Yes, I saw them in the bushes, and what they were doing were waiting for the children to come out of the party and then bash them for their mobile phones, etc.
So you know kids were actually bashed and robbed?
Yes, they were.
Well, do you know of that personally?
Yes, I do.
Goodness, man. And how many people hiding in the bushes?
Look, I wouldn't like to say the police told my girlfriend
We'll
Nicola...
keep going because they reported on the other one. But that's the mother's testimony that we heard there. Let's go back to the local radio station who I first heard it from last night, and I have tried to reach out to get some information from her, but it's been hard to contact.
Yeah, so then this mother, she called the police, she did the right thing, the police were on their way, and I believe, the police then told me many units went, including the K9 unit, but they weren't there yet, right?
Yeah.
So then a boy comes out, a 19-year-old boy, and the mom described the scene. When the boy emerged, one of the moms described the scene. She said it was like something out of a movie because these gangs then hunted down this young boy like he was prey, right? And they attacked him and were stomping on the side of his head so hard that this kid, he's on an AFL scholarship at a school there, this kid can't play for the foreseeable future. He's got really dramatically perforated eardrums. That's how hard they were stomping on him.
So this poor kid walks out of the party and gets jumped by this gang of African immigrants, gets stomped on for nothing. He's on an AFL, so an Australian Rules Football scholarship. He's going to lose everything because this gang, whom our government decided would assimilate to our country, assimilate to our society, jumped him. And again, the media still not a problem, not a word.
So I spoke after very disturbing reading all these first-hand accounts on social media. And what was weird as well, and which is upsetting, is that the teenagers involved were so scared from this point, like it rattled their childhood, it rattled everything about who they are, that they then got angry with their mothers for posting on social media about this, and they begged their mothers to take the post down because they feared retaliation. So anyway, I was reading all this and the story was unfolding, and I decided to ring the Narrawarren police, who I believe were the initial ones to respond. And the officer I spoke to was audibly rattled by this. He was upset. Like he was very upset that an incident like this had happened in Berwick, and I felt for him on the phone. And initially he said to me, look, this is an active investigation. I can't tell you too much about it. And I said, look, there must be some facts. One of the mums told me there were 50 plus.
Yeah.
And he went very quiet. And he said there were 190.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That is scary.
I think we've got the story there. I don't. They go on and give us commentary, and well done to this Nicola Charles for actually bringing this out into the public, even though it's on a small local radio station. I can see she's also uploaded it to YouTube, and but it's still small, only 20,000 views or something like that. We need this to go far and wide, because this is the reality. This is the reality. The reality is that African gangs are holding our state, Victoria, hostage. This is the reality, where the mainstream media don't bother even reporting on it anymore. This is the reality, where children are scared to be children, in the fear of these sorts of scenarios, that they are going to get robbed and bashed for nothing, that they can lose everything. They certainly lose their childhood. This is the reality. So you want to know what the answers are? Well, the answers are simple. And we've been talking about it for years now. Since the beginning, I was the first to interview the first victim of this African crime wave in Victoria. I think it's almost 3 years ago now. And the answers have been there the whole time. We've got an election coming up in Australia. Now, there are not many politicians talking about this. But you need to look at our immigration policies. You need to look at our judicial system. We're talking to a lot of the police. They're telling us that they're locking these kids up. They're out by the afternoon. Why? Cultural differences. They have an excuse. They didn't understand. They don't know. These kids are laughing at us. Don't even call them kids. They're thugs. They're thugs that we've either imported or imported their parents. When kids act like this, if you're a new immigrant here, you should be deported immediately. In fact, your whole family should be deported. Watch how quickly these kids stop. When you implement a policy like that, sounds harsh, but the reality is, if you understand this culture and you understand this, it's a tribal culture, and you can apply this to terrorism as well. If they realize the only thing that matters to them is their family, that's it, their family and their tribes. If you take that and you threaten that for their behavior, watch all this crime stop. The only reason why they don't care is because they don't respect us. They don't respect our culture. They don't respect our way of life. They are ungrateful for the fact that people open their arms and their hearts and their homes to them. We need to stop importing those cultures. That's number one. First and foremost. You can see it doesn't work. Bleeding heart immigration policy does not work. Use your head. Common sense. They don't integrate. They do not integrate. And if you look at the statistic, this is not one isolated incident. This happens day in, day out. I'm not even talking about the welfare system and all those other social issues that we're having. Just the crime. You're talking about 0.1 of our Victorian citizens who, in our crime statistics, in our violent crime, is represented about 9% of it. 0.1% of the civilian, the Victorians, they represent Sudanese is 0.1%. They are overrepresented, but they are 9% of our violent crime. It's not working. No other group even comes close. No other group has gangs like this terrorizing our children. Melburnian children, Victorian, Australian children. We need to do something about it. So the only way we're going to get our government to change, the only way they're going to implement policy is by awareness. And that's up to you. So please, share this story far and wide.